The craze now, especially with women, is these weight loss drugs like Ozempic. Have you studied any of these, or do you know any about any of these things?
I know a little bit about Ozempic. I will say right off the bat, I'm going to admit, I know the basics on Ozempic, but I haven't looked into all the negatives thoroughly, like I have with
Okay.
anabolics and all this other stuff.
Okay. Well, why don't you give us the basics on Ozempic, because that's another question. People don't seem to know how it actually makes you lose weight.
Yeah, let me start with this real quick because this will be interesting for me as well. Okay, tell
Hmm.
people tell people from at least your side, maybe what you've heard at the gym or what have you, what you think, at least what you or what people have told you about Ozempic. Like from your side, what are you hearing about Ozempic?
Well, from what I heard about Ozempic, it's basically a diabetic drug, and for some strange reason, it makes you lose weight. But from what I understand, they don't know exactly how it makes you lose weight. And then from what I understand, it burns muscle as far as and as well as fat. But these girls, they're just jumping on it like nobody's business, and it's like if you just my attitude is like, I mean, they're not even trying to work out a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
They're not even
no, no,
trying. It is I want results now, no matter what. And it's like well, if you maybe if you went to the gym a little bit, maybe if you cleaned up your diet, maybe you would have some kind of result, but they don't even want to do that. They just hear about this drug and they jump on it. And it's a relatively new drug from what I understand. So that's the as much as I know about it.
yeah. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna, if you have me on whatever time, I'll run that back and give you a breakdown. But before I say something stupid, what I'm gonna at least pull up is I'm gonna check right now what class of drugs it is, so I
Mm-hmm.
don't mix this up with. I was talking to what's that other one that's hit the market?
It's yeah.
It's a famous appetite suppressant. It kills people's appetite so that they basically almost they can't even eat, almost like smoking. So oh yeah, it's the semi glutide. Oh no, so I guess I do know a little bit more about this than
Oh, good, good, good,
that's
good.
a good thing. No, this is Ozempic is the semi glutide peptide. Oh okay. Okay, well, I was thinking, oh, I need to get back to you on this. I'm not, I don't, I'm not as much studied up on this as all the stuff, the trenbolone, the testosterone, the hormones, but this does fall into the peptide category, which I'm happy to talk about too. So with Ozempic, which is the brand name, what is this chemical? This is the peptide semi-glutide. So now this is interesting because one of my clients, I'm not going to name him, but I was talking to him, and when I started working with him, he's out of Texas. But when I started working with him, he was taking exactly what you're talking about, semi-glutide, and that's what you say Ozempic. I'm thinking, okay, is this the stimulant? Is this the it's a stimulant based drug that people are taking to reduce appetite, or is this the peptide? Well, no, this is referring to semi-glutide. So
Right.
that's that semi-glutide craze that John is talking about that people are taking to do what? Kill appetite, right? So first and foremost, in terms of muscle mass loss, because that most of the people watching your show, this is going to be related to muscle mass. So in terms of muscle mass loss, this peptide is not going to directly cause muscle mass loss, as far as I know. I'll double
Okay.
check on this and come back to you. But as far as I know, this is not going to cause muscle loss directly. Why? Because it's basically a copy or a mimic of GLP, which is what released by the small intestine to basically slow what? Slow digestion. So I believe it's GLP-2, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's GLP-1. So the idea was behind semaglutide. Okay, we want to come up with a drug that's a non-stimulant drug. What does this mean? You can lose fat by using what? You can lose fat in the human body. Oh, I don't want to get into an hour lecture here, but
That's
basically you
okay.
can,
It's okay.
yeah, basically you can lose fat, burn body fat in the human body by a couple different means. You can take stimulant class drugs such as, caffeine would even be in this. You take caffeine, you can take epinephrine, you can take ephedrine, you can take clenbuterol, which binds the beta 2 agonist receptor sites. Ephedrine, by the way, will actually bind both the beta 2 and all the beta receptors and the alpha receptors. And that's why there's nothing as good as fat burning on planet Earth as ephedrine in terms of stimulant class. However, we're not talking about stimulants. and we're not talking about anabolics that bind the androgen receptor. Here's the fat cell. You have beta receptor sites, you have alpha receptor sites, you have HGH receptor sites. That's why HGH burns fat, body fat like nobody's business. And you have androgen receptor sites specifically for DHT. I told John about that at the beginning of the podcast, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So guess what? This isn't any of those. Ozempic brand name, I'm going to use the real name, semaglutide. Semaglutide does not bind any receptor site on the fat cell. So we're not burning anything directly, guys. Okay. This
Okay.
isn't a
All right.
stimulant. This is an HGH class. So people need to understand that. But what semaglutide actually does is by mimicking, I gotta check if it's an exact copy or if it's a derivative mimic or something else. Like testosterone is obviously has, DH. We have, for anabolics, we have DHT derivatives, we have 19-nors, we have all these subclasses. So I'm going to get back to you on what kind of agonist specifically it is. But what I do know so far, this is the short answer, is that semaglutide does not attach any of the different receptor sites on the fat cell direct. There's no direct fat cell burning. The fat loss from semaglutide / Ozempic is caused by what? Strictly appetite suppression. So what they did was they took one of the hormones released by your small intestine when you're full. So if John goes to the store and he eats, I'll just take a great example. You go to Aldi's, you go to the store and you eat a pound of bacon or a pound of cheese. What's going to happen? Your body's going to sense all that fat. Some protein in there too, but your small intestine is going to sense all that fat pouring in. Guess what it's going to do? It's going to create and release GLP-2. GLP-2 is one of the hormones that does what? That slows, and if enough's released, it'll stop your digestion. What's the purpose of that? Well, most people, John, I'm sure you could figure this out, but most people with the brain is going to say, well, the reason the body's creating GLP-2 in the first place is to what? To slow down or stop digestion. To what? To absorb your nutrients, to absorb all that fat. If John eats a pound of cheese or a pound of bacon, all the fat comes pouring in. Guess what the small intestine is going to do? It's going to release GLP-2 along with other hormones to stop digestion so that your body has more time to digest all that fat. Okay, because you just ate a pound of cheese or a pound of bacon. So maybe I'm getting a little long-winded, but the gist of it is this. GLP-2 is a mimic or a copy. I got to check what type of agonist, but it's a copy. Semaglutide / Ozempic is a copy of GLP-2, which is naturally released by the small intestine to do what? To slow or stop digestion. So when you go and you take a shot of Ozempic or semaglutide, this peptide hormone is going to do what? It's going to artificially slow or stop digestion depending on how much taken. So what does this look like in fat loss terms? This looks like this, is that you can if you took enough of this stuff, I got to look at side effects because I can't tell you. I can guess side effects, but I don't have the long list in front of me. But if you take a shot of Ozempic, depending on how much this is, you take a peptide hormone, take it in the fat. What's going to happen? Depending on dose taken, you can basically stop hunger because you're stopping your digestive tract to, depending on how much you take, you could stop it to a halt. Okay.
So yeah, that's what it seems. It seems that what's happening is if you take more than necessary, you get nauseous and you get sick. That's from what I've seen.
Yeah, and you could give yourself, I could double check, but I'm going to make a guess that you could give yourself ulcers with this, because guess what happens? You take enough of this stuff, you slow or stop your digestion, your stomach acid could just be sitting there. So I could double check on that, but that could be a possible side effect as well. So, in terms of should you use semaglutide, the thing is that if you switch your diet around, you can naturally, what's the word I'm looking for? You could naturally, not mimic, you could naturally change these hormone interactions in your body. What do I mean by that? I mean that you can modify how much GLP-2 you make. I can modify how much GLP-2 I make. So could John, within reason, just by switching our food choices around to create less appetite, naturally, with our natural production of the hormone. So, am I going to tell people not to use semaglutide? No, I think that, if you've got an eating problem, you got to lose weight, I could see taking a small dosage on this. I can't give you dosages because I haven't done a deep dive on this besides what I already laid out, which probably sounds like a deep dive, but the thing is that you could take small amounts to help kickstart, a fat loss cycle or a diet. But long term, I would tell people I wouldn't take this, because the thing is that and this is probably where the muscle loss thing comes from. And you can stop me if I'm rambling too
No,
long.
go ahead. Go ahead. Believe me.
Yeah, but where the muscle loss thing probably comes from is people are taking this stuff, too much of this stuff, and guess what happens? What happens if you stop or slow digestion down too much when you're even if you're consuming enough protein? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to keep digesting it. You're not going to be. Long story short is you could stop digestion enough to basically, even theoretically, if you're eating enough protein, to not be able to absorb enough protein, because you're not letting your body process protein at the rate it wants to. So
Right.
so the problem I'm going to just lay out for you guys is that in small, that's the key word, in small amounts, could this help you burn fat and kick hunger a little bit? Yeah. But personally, I don't think it would be worth it, unless this person really needs it to medically lose weight. There's just better options.